Don Global presents
the DG Recruit podcast on everything headhunting and recruitment. Achieve the life and career you envision. What's up, game changers? It's your host, Don, founder of Don Global, the headhunting and career coaching company helping you achieve the life and career you envision.
In today's podcast episode, I'm going to share with you some key updates and tips for the rest of 2023. And this is really a July market update for agency recruiters so that you can understand what's happening on a macro scale across our industry, whether it is perm or temp recruitment. So let's get started. The first tip that I want to share with you is that everyone is having a slow year. Now, some people have started their career in 2021 and 2022, where they saw some incredible opportunities to make money almost blindly because the market was just scrambling for talent. And that has changed a lot in 2023. And arguably even towards the end of 2022. So 2023 has been slow for the first 6 months, and that's still continuing to this day. But hopefully those who have kept their eye on the prize, those who have been grinding it out regardless, are starting to see traction, because what you've done before with all the BD efforts, as well as just circling back to candidates, keep on keeping on, that is what's keeping your business afloat. Because I think too often when people experience a big degree of success too easily, they think that that's just the way it is. And to a certain degree, yes, maybe your talent played a limited impact in that success, but you have to understand that happened under a backdrop of unbelievable economic opportunity that I have never seen. Because when I started in the industry, it was in 2011, and it was just like a year and a half, 2 years out of the financial crisis. So you just did not see that kind of unbelievable, boundless recruitment that we saw in 2021 and 2022 as the bounce back from COVID. That again is historically never before seen. So a lot of people who started their career in the last 2-3 years are feeling very unconfident right now because they've never had to really scrounge. And if you haven't scrounged before, you don't know what scrounging really means. It's like if you have never hungered, if you've never starved, then you don't know what the feeling of your insides tearing at you feel like. You don't understand that desperation. You don't understand that mentality. In fact, you're doubly hurt. It's like a double whammy because now you question yourself. You don't even know if it was you that was successful or if it was the market. So the answer is it's probably a bit of both. Like it's probably a bit of both you being decently charismatic and competent, as well as the market being really good. And that can make a lot of mediocre performers do well. But in negative markets like the one we're facing now, that's when the test really comes through. It's like, do you have the capability? Are you really equipped to be a long-term player in this career? Not just hanging out when the going is easy. It's, are you able to handle this business when the going gets tough? And that's what this year is all about. It's about proving to yourself, do you have the chutzpah, or are you just kind of a fair weather gal or guy? Right? We've seen a lot of those folks. They're like, last year I did 500,000. This year I'm going to go internal because I'm just like, I just can't handle the stress. So let's talk about internal. Internal recruiting this year, this is the second update, has been pummeled to a degree of like unrecognizability almost, you know? And I remember this very clearly because last year, so many people, and not just like my competitors, but so many new recruiters were like, let's just recruit HR people. This is a great market. They did not understand that that was a temporary phenomenon. Because I'll tell you, having been in the recruiting for recruiters game since 2018, I've always noticed why the HR space is not the best market. I would say out of all the markets that you can recruit for, I would not start an HR recruitment firm. And the reason is because it's an easy role to recruit for because there's a lot of supply. So headhunters, where do we make the most money? We make the most money in businesses and niches that are really, really hard to find talent, We don't make a lot of money in spaces where there's an unlimited incoming class of people who want that job desperately, i.e., HR. Well, where are the people coming into these HR jobs? They're coming from agency. They don't want to do the agency job anymore. They can't handle the stress that we have to handle. They're not really motivated. They just want a job. And that's why they want to go internal. So what happens is that a ton of people are trying to get into a very limited amount of spots. And because of COVID, again, there was this unreasonable demand for TA people. And look what happened this year, right? And it's still happening. It's because this is not a very highly valued skill. It is a skill that way too many people have commensurate to how many roles are actually open, which is why you see this insane amount of continued layoffs. And I've said this before, and I will say it again. When people keep on only doing one thing, as in recruiting versus selling, when all you do is just one thing, you are limiting your career trajectory. And I've said that a million times. And it's because you only know how to do half the job. If you don't know how to connect with clients, if you don't understand how to run a full desk and all you do is recruit and support and worse yet, just research, you are expendable. Like there is nothing unique that you are bringing to the table that we must retain you at for whatever you ask for. Because the reality is recruitment is not a really super difficult skill that we can't train a college grad to do, right? All the incoming classes are filled with college freshmen, grads. They're all done. They're all graduated BS, their bachelor's degree, and they're ready to make some money. And boom, you train them up. This is how you recruit. It's not rocket science. So what is the actual niche skill in agency recruitment? It is sales. It's selling. It's being able to get clients to listen to you, to trust you, to build books of business. You build books of business off of high value talent and very desirable namesake career-making accounts. And you have to figure out how to do that. This is why I do all my trainings on MPC coaching, which I'm doing another one next week on the 26th of July. So make sure to tune into that. It's happening at noon Eastern, as with all of my monthly free trainings that you should check out. So that's on my website, dondonzoo.com. Make sure to sign up for that as soon as possible so I can approve you. Now back to my point about internal recruiters. The closing note is, unsurprisingly, they are still being laid off. Unsurprisingly, they will continue to be laid off. Unsurprisingly, people who are in a TA job will continue to face uncertainty in their career because the next agency recruiter who's sick of agency recruiting, who is 3 years into their career, is ready to take your job for a lower price. This is why HR is not a stable job. And I've tried to explain this a million times to people. Hey, if you are willing to just take a little bit of pain for a massive amount of gain, your future will be there to thank you. Most people are like, I can't be bothered. I just want a regular job and I just want to do it, which is fine. This is why so few people are $1 million billers. This is why so few people make a shit ton of money in the real world. It's because most people are just like, can't be bothered. I'd rather take the easier way out. And unfortunately, you pay for those decisions. Just like, hey, I want to eat pizza every day. You pay for that decision when you're 65. That's when you're going to pay for it. You're not going to pay for it right this moment, in this exact moment, but you will pay for it in the future. So this is just something I've always understood as a young person building my personal career, was that anything that's hard to do, not only do I have to do it, I have to be excellent at it. I have to be so much better than my competition. And the reason is because I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for my personal development. I'm doing this for my future success. I don't care if it's necessary or if people expect me to do it or not. I just have to be good at everything I do, especially the hard stuff. The harder it is, the more I need to practice it and get better at it. Bite the bullet, eat the frog. Right? So there's just two different mentalities in life. And unfortunately, right now, you're seeing in real time the consequences of thinking one way or the other. And clearly, one person's always going to be winning. And it's that person who's going to bust their butt, take the risk, work hard today, sacrifice. Those people are always going to win. Like, duh. That is how the world is set up. Like, if you're willing to do what other people aren't willing to do, you're going to get the rewards that other people are not going to get. It's very straightforward. All right, third point that I want to make. A lot of people are like unhappy with their recruitment job, right? And they're unhappy just because they're having a slower year. Things aren't as easy flowing. They're not getting the accolades that they were getting. They're just kind of like, just like anybody. in any job. They're starting to feel just like, what else is out there? What else should I do? So the two main options, if you are a genuine agency person, the two options you have isn't let me go and become an HR person or let me quit, right? The two options that you're really thinking about is, should I move agencies or should I start my own recruiting firm, right? These are the two logical next step questions any sane person who is good at the job is going to ask themselves, right? The market's slower. I don't have as much commissions holding me down. I don't have those golden handcuffs as much as I used to have. Should I or should I not start my own recruiting agency? Or should I not move agencies? So let's talk about both of those options a little bit more so that you get a little bit of career coaching here. Obviously, I do private one-on-one coaching for this, but here are just two tips that I often talk about with the candidates that I encounter. The first one is if you're looking to switch agencies, really think about, is the pain worth the gain? When you set up at a new agency, it's not rainbows and butterflies. It's grind time. You got to prove to your new employer that you are worth it, especially, God forbid, if they brought you on a really high comp package. If you are brought in on a very high comp package, you really have to prove yourself because you got this big old target on your back is that revenue must follow the expenditure, right? I just spent all this money on hiring you. You better prove to me that you're worth this amount of money. So I better see some production. And the challenge in a down market to be put on such a very pressurized situation is that the market's not helping you, right? The market's not helping you do deals. You have to fight doubly hard for the market to have you win. And you likely will have to set up a new client book because you're moving agencies. And it's just not a good look to steal all your clients when you move to a new agency, right? We all know what non-competes look like. And even if they're enforceable or not enforceable, there's a certain ethics to the damn thing, right? You don't want to burn all your bridges and take every single client in Canada that you just talked to at your old firm, right? There's a certain ethical element here. So likely you're going to have to build a whole new client book in a pretty awful client environment, recruitment environment, being that this is a down year and that things are still in recovery mode. And you're going to have to work doubly hard in terms of your time commitment. So if you're very comfortable at your recruitment job and you got this 9-to-5 work-life balance that it took you years to earn, and your money is, you could be earning more, but you're also not earning like the worst, then what is the actual point of saying and feeling the necessity to leave, right? So this is my challenge when I talk to a lot of candidates is like, I don't want to represent people who ultimately, when you really consult with them, the need is not very beneficial for them to move. They may even think in their own head, wow, I want to move. But then after a deep discussion with me, we have this realization that it's actually not in your benefit to move because our career is so unique. It's not like other jobs where you can just do whatever you want, right? And like every time you move a job, they're going to give you 30% guaranteed extra. Remember, we are mostly paid on commission. So it just doesn't translate soup to nuts like that, right? In my old recruitment market, when I moved people, I would get them a massive salary raise, right? Someone who was making $195, I would get them $250. Yeah, it's a no-brainer to move jobs. But in our role now, you're making probably 200, you're making probably 150 with maybe 65 or 60K base or draw. For me to move you, you're not going to get 150. You're not even going to get 200. You're not going to get maybe even 100. You might get an 80K draw. So you're actually net losing a lot of money when you move firms. So you have to think very carefully, do I really want to shake up what I have now, even though, yes, things aren't perfect, but whose job is perfect? Right? Whose job is perfect anyways? Most people don't have a perfect job. I sure as hell know nobody has a perfect job, including myself, right? There's always trouble. There's always stress. There's always work to be done, right? So you got to think about, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the pain worth the gain, right? So you got to think about all those things. Is the marginal effort worth the marginal gain? And if the answer is not really, then you have to really think about, why are you making such a move? Now, the second point that I wanted to say about this is related to entrepreneurship. We have a lot of people that are like, hey, you know what? Like I said earlier, their golden handcuffs are coming loose. They're not feeling that they have a ton of things holding them back from entrepreneurship. They're already having an awful year as it is. And they're thinking to themselves, should I start my own recruiting firm? So let's talk a little bit about this. Firstly, it's a lot easier for a direct hire person, permanent recruiter, headhunter, like myself. It's really easy for me to set up a recruiting firm. And the reason is because it's very low overheads compared to contract staffing, right? Staffing recruitment, you need a whole infrastructure. You need capital. You need quite a bit of capital because you're front loading, you're front paying your contractors that you're getting a spread on, right? Yes, you can work with third-party agencies to help you do this, but let's be honest, you have to be ready if you're going to run a temp recruitment business that your expenditures are going to be much higher than a direct hire business, right? So you have to understand business models. So number one, if you're like a staffing business person, if you've only ever done temp recruitment and you don't know what it's like to build your own accounts and you've just been recruiting for a big company and filling their recs, I will tell you 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be ready to set up your own recruiting firm. And the reason isn't because you're not talented. The reason is because you just don't know what you don't know. Firstly, if you're looking to set up a recruitment firm of any sort, you have to be a salesperson. You have to really understand how clients work, how these contracts are written, how the finances work behind the damn thing, right? Because when you run a business, you have to understand something called the P&L, profit and loss. Now, I'm the worst person when it comes to accounting and financial operations, but I'm very savvy when it comes to running and understanding businesses, right? So if you do not know what rates you need to be negotiating so that you can turn a profit, or if you've never really talked to clients and you don't know how to negotiate 25 to 30% rates, if you've never sold a retainer, if you've never really landed yourself quite a few MSAs. So my old track record, my first year in recruiting, I can't even count how many MSAs I signed. It was probably like 3 or 4 a month. Like it was like a lot. It was a lot of MSAs because I was constantly BDing. So it's like, if you don't have the experience of landing yourself on a company's PSL, preferred suppliers list, how are you going to be ready to run a recruiting firm? Right? It's like almost ludicrous. You're missing a humongous chunk of experience. So it's better off for you to work for someone else in that situation and or work at your existing agency and gain that experience before you set up your own agency, because you really want to learn and earn on someone else's dime and time. You would ideally not like to do it on your own. That would not be ideal, right? You want to learn on someone else's dime and time. So again, the situation here is entrepreneurship or moving agencies. Think carefully and make sure you're ready. But the last thing I will leave you with that in terms of a tip is make sure you're well capitalized. What do I mean by well capitalized? You need to have money. You need to have actual money that you can access that isn't credit card debt, because you're going to need it. You're going to need it to pay for your healthcare. You're going to need it to pay for your lifestyle, your rent, your mortgage, your eating, your groceries, your class pass, I don't know, like your car, right? You're going to need money, especially if you're going to start and be an entrepreneur. So I'm very risk averse. I waited until I had hundreds of thousands of dollars before I started my own agency. That's why I worked for a company for so long. It's because I bode my time, and I wanted to wait until I had more than enough money, like so much money that there was no way I was ever going to crawl back to employment being like, can I have a job? Because I tried the entrepreneurship thing and it failed, right? So I'm kind of a perfectionist in that sense. Like, I will not start an endeavor unless I know for a fact that I'm going to succeed at it. And the best way to insulate yourself is capital backing of your own accord, not waiting on credit cards, not waiting for other people to seed you, not waiting for investors, but actually having personal net worth, personal wealth to protect you. And that gives you more agency as well, as in you don't have to live and die by someone else's sword, right? I hate that. Why would I want to live and die by my investors? Like, screw them. I don't need investors. I invest in myself, right? And I know people are like, well, Donda, that's not how you're going to scale into $1 billion company. I don't give a crap, right? Like I have a very unique view on how I want to live my life and what success means to me. And last time I checked, it wasn't having a huge amount of pressure on my body and being financially constrained and strapped to some investor who expects me to do XYZ for him or her and likely generate them XYZ return. I just don't want to deal with all that junk. Like that does not sound exciting to me. That does not sound like financial freedom and happiness, right? So I think, again, everyone needs to think about what their next move is and also appreciate the existing setup you have now, right? I've talked to a lot of recruiters that work at really good agencies, and I'm like, don't ever forget how easy it was for you to bill because your agency already had those connections, right? A lot of people, like not like me, right? When I first joined in the recruiting business, I had no fallback house accounts. Like our company just simply did not have any accounts for me to work on. And I had to build all those accounts. Now, a lot of people that are coming in after me, people who work at this agency now, they don't have to go and pull those accounts because the accounts already exist, right? That's the value of the firm. The firm already has those client relationships because somebody else brought them in. So in that case, don't ever discount how powerful existing business is, because you could just waltz in and start doing deals. You don't even have to do business development because you already have the companies in the roster, right? So again, everyone has a different situation. Always think about what exactly are you leaving behind and is it worth it? Are you ready? Now I have 2 more tips for you. So number 4 is there are tons of recruitment scams right now. This is proliferating at an insane speed. I know because I get the messages. I get the messages all the time. And the reason why I get all these messages, because people clearly have me on some sort of like something somewhere. They have my information and they are sending me all this junk. So whatever you're getting, I am getting. And it is junk, all right. And the junk is stuff like, hi, I can help you scale your agency from 0 to 500,000 to $1 million within a month. Like it's all ridiculous stuff like that. Or conversely, it's really sad stuff. So the other day I got an email from somebody who's like, hey, do you want more business leads? I'll show you how I build $453,000 in 2 years for the agency I was working at. And you're like, that is a shamefully low amount of money, considering in 2011, I personally billed over 330, right? Like for you in 2023, a full 12 years later to be like, yo, I did 450 in 2 years. That's an average billing of 220, like 215 or whatever the math works out to be. It's bad. Like that's not even like, you don't want to brag about that. You don't want to tell someone, hey, I did 200 in a year. Look at how good I am. Like that is not impressive at all. Right. And then you have people who think that that is a selling point and they're like, let me show you how to do this and that. And I guarantee you some chump who is billing 90,000 is going to think that that's good and sign up for it, right? Again, people just don't know what they don't know. They don't understand what's possible in this business. And there's so much junk, right? Whether it's AI or like machine learning, people are like, oh, machine learning, it's going to change everything. AI is going to change everything. Yeah, it's going to change the amount of ridiculous emails that we receive. And at the end of the day, good, smart, consistent, sharp, well done recruitment efforts will still work. Like, a proper MPC spec will still work. A proper cold call will still work. Just like all the fear mongering that happens with every single invention. Back in the day, people used to say that about LinkedIn. People used to say LinkedIn is going to eradicate the need for headhunters now that it's connecting all the companies with all the candidates. And what has happened? What has happened in real life with LinkedIn? LinkedIn has been completely dominated by headhunters. Recruiters have used LinkedIn to make millions and millions and millions of dollars because it is a tool that we are using. So again, it has not replaced us. It's just become a tool that we have been using. And that will continue to happen. There is no way possible that you can replace the manual effort that we have to expend in order to do a deal. Like, think about it, right? If you know what calling a client looks like, if you know what calling and headhunting a highly desirable candidate looks like, you know that there's no way in hell a technology can do it, because it already takes a human so much effort, and they have to be exceptionally charismatic to make that happen, right? And persistent and hardworking and dedicated and all of that. Right. So again, I think for all of the, people out there who are worried about the future or nervous, don't be. This is just another BS thing. And then also be careful of these recruitment scams, because they're all going to try to sell you something. Take my course, do this thing, blah, blah, blah. Check their LinkedIn profile. The guy I told you that did 2 years of 453K in billing, that guy, I looked at his profile and it was a hot mess. There was no legitimate track record. And that is the same thing you'll see with every single, I would say 99% of these coaches and trainers. You actually look at their background, see what they've achieved. Have they ever worked at a name brand recruitment firm? Have they ever worked at like a top recruitment firm and was a top producer where they actually have value and have knowledge to share to you? Or are they just selling you what you want to hear, which is like, how do I build millions of dollars without doing anything, right? That's usually more or less what they're trying to sell you on. So again, make sure that you do not get fooled. All right. So number 5, last one. Like I said earlier, don't worry too much about the new developments of like technology, right? Understand that if you can go back to basics, you'll be fine. And that's really what I want to leave you with, is a lot of people have been questioning, should I switch markets? Should I switch careers? Should I give up? And the reality is, no, you shouldn't. You just need to get better. You need to do this better. Everything you do, question, am I really doing it the best way possible? So an easy example is when you're having conversations with candidates, are you getting every single lead that you can possibly get? When you're talking to clients, are you getting a full go spec? Like, are you actually getting these details, or are people just kind of shoving you off the phone and you're just like, that's the way it is? Do you see what I mean? Like, you have to really think very carefully around how do you want to represent yourself to your clients and candidates, and make sure that you are not leaving any stone unturned. And this really is the difference between a top biller and someone who's never really ever going to be a top biller. It's these tiny little details. It's like, what are you missing in your process that's making you have dropped offers, right? Like, my dropper rate is non-existent. Like, literally, I'm proud to say I have a 0 dropper rate ever since like 2021. Yeah, like I have a 0 dropper rate, 0 droppers, right? Yeah, 0 droppers, maybe one guy in 2021. So 2022, since 2022, 0 droppers, like 0, right? And I'm used to that. When I did executive search and pharmaceutical search, I had 2 droppers in 5 years. That's a very low amount. And it wasn't by accident. It wasn't because I got lucky. It was because everything I did was so, I hate to use this word, OCD. Everything I did in my job was so OCD that like I was compulsively just thinking about all the deal killers and how can I avoid losing deals. That literally was the way I ran my business. Was like, from intake call, what can I do to minimize this deal being lost? That was the mentality that I had. Is that A, everyone's going to be a possible deal, and B, I have to minimize the deal from being lost. So does that mean pushing for higher rate? Does that mean pulling them out of process earlier just because I don't want to get to that point, right? All of these decisions are what contributed to my ultimately very low dropper rate. So I never really had any worries. I didn't have clawbacks. Sometimes I talk to recruiters, they want to calculate all the deals that they could have done. And I'm like, that's meaningless. Don't calculate the deals that you could have locked in or all the dropped deals. Those don't count. No one's counting your dropped offers and your dropped deals. That doesn't count, right? What only counts is what the money that came into the bank account. That's the only number that matters in a recruiter's life. So again, think about what are the things that you can do today to make yourself a better biller. And sometimes you can get the training from internal, and sometimes you're just going to have to do it on your own. So mine was like 80% was myself. 20% was somebody told me, hey, Donda, maybe you want to try this. And I ran with it. So like my company said, hey, you might want to pitch candidates to work with you exclusively because that way they won't cheat on you. Great. then I created a whole entire business around how can I make it so that people understand the logic behind working with me exclusively. This is what I'm going to cover next week on the 26th at noon. So make sure to tune into that free training on my website, dondonzoo.com. You got to sign up now, right? And the reason is because I don't want to mess up and find out later. Like, my time is valuable. I want to be a top biller. I want to have luxuries. I want to have homes. I want to have lots of properties. I want to be a millionaire by 30. That was like my driving force, my driving goal in my 20s. Right? So again, in that situation, how can I be the best I can be at the job, doing every element of the job? How can I be the best at going to conferences? How can I be the best at talking to clients? How can I be the best to service candidates? How can I be the best? And when you are the best, people recognize that. They recognize the excellence and they talk to other people about you because they're like, yeah, no shit, she is the best. Right? That's the point. The point is to be better than all the rest. You're simply the best, right? Better than all the rest. That's right. That's the whole point of being successful, is you gotta be better than your competition, either internally or externally. So what can I do today to make myself a better headhunter? What can I do today to make myself a better communicator? Does that mean changing the pitch of my voice to a downspeak when I'm a young 23-year-old that wants to just like talk like this? Yes, that's what that means. It means you have to change how you do certain things. Right? That's something that I had to learn as a 23-year-old. When I call a client and I'm 23 years old, I'm going to sound kind of like this. I'm going to kind of pitch my voice lower. I'm not going to be like, hi, I just graduated. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, do you want to give me a rec? Like, no, right? This is a serious business. If you want to make money, you don't got that much time to prove yourself. That urgency has to be felt. So that's what I want to end this market update on, is from macro to micro. What you can do now to control your future destiny and your rest of your year. The first half of the year, it's a wash. Everyone had a slow year across the board. Do not take it personally. Everybody had the same exact experience. Now, the second half of the year is where the rubber meets the road. Did you or did you not start calling clients and building those relationships in the downtime so that now for the second half of the year, when hiring rebounds, you're going to be the first person they call. You're going to be the one that first calls them, most likely. That you're going to be the one first on the scene. Lock that shit up on exclusive and get it going. Because at the end of the day, it's your business. You need to run it. And everyone has the same opportunity. You just have to put yourself in the right place at the right time. And that's why working hard always works. If you work harder than other people, the odds of you being at the right place at the right time is just going to be much higher than somebody else who isn't as present. So keep that in mind. You have a huge amount of control over your future if you understand the dichotomy between effort, inputs, and outputs. Right? So on that note, best of luck to you for the rest of this month, and really tighten up your processes, really get back on the grind, because the second half of the year has to make it worth it. You got to make up for those slower first 2 quarters in order to have an amazing Christmas, holiday season, New Year season, headed into 2024 with your head held high.